like I've never heard like even my colleagues, right? Like everybody just cribs about like paying taxes, and the general crib is that even I was talking to one of my previous managers, and even he was like what am I paying the 30% for? He was looking to move to Dubai or New Zealand because he's looking to have a baby, and he really doesn't want to raise his kid here. And he doesn't see any benefit of him paying 30%, like the roads that he travels on.
Absolutely, there is no benefit for him.
Yeah, yeah.
The benefit is for the 80 crore Indians who need who need government assistance to eat food. So you need to think of it. So taxes may be coming from that 2%, 5% of the people, income taxes. And to be really honest, even the poorest of the poor pay taxes in India. We tend to look at direct taxes and indirect taxes. Everyone is paying GST when they're buying a 5 rupee Parle G biscuit packet. So everyone is paying taxes, one. But who has the first right on those taxes? The government has to decide who has the first right on those taxes. And if the government decides that the first right on the tax money which is collected should be directed towards the vast majority of Indians, I believe it's perfectly fair. Is there corruption? Is there wastage? Yes, that is there. Should those things go down? Yes, they should. But expecting the government to cater to the 2% versus the 70% of people who need government assistance for food, I think that's wrong expectation. So the manager that you're talking about, from his point of view, it's a perfectly valid argument. If I'm paying a shopkeeper 100 rupees, I want goods worth rupees 100 rupees. Here, when you take that sort of a mindset, it looks fair. If I'm paying 100 rupees in taxes, I need to get some worth out of it. But you cannot really look at it like that. You are paying 100 rupees not to a shopkeeper to give you something. You are paying that 100 rupees to stay in India, to follow the rules here, to stay out of jail. How those 100 rupees need to be distributed, that is the government's call. And the government will always favor the vast majority which exists. Now, if you are not part of that majority, that is the reason that you are paying taxes. So what do? One of the possible options is that you make so much money that even if you are leaving aside the 30% of taxes, the 70% is good enough for you and you live your life. Or B, you move to a country where you don't have to pay that amount of taxes, or at least you get something in return for those taxes. So I don't really think that the top 2% who are paying that, top 2%, 1%, I don't really have the exact number of the people who are paying those 30% of taxes. If they're expecting something from the government, I believe that expectation is not going to be fulfilled for a very, very long time. At least not in the next decade or so. And that is why what do you do for the next decade or so? You move abroad where you can at least perhaps get some return for your taxes.
So before I probe this further, maybe the first question I have to ask you is like why are you still here? Like, I mean, in the sense that you have made enough to kind of not work full time, but you're still working. I mean, yes, but that's a separate question. So you have the resources, you have the knowledge, you know how like you have went to different countries. Is it inertia or is it just?
So there are plenty of reasons behind it. The biggest reason I believe is because of the sort of upbringing that I had. So my parents were government servants. I genuinely asking, if you ask me, list down all the schools that you have studied at. I cannot even name all the schools that I have studied at because I kept on getting transferred from here to there to there. Both of my parents were government servants. So sometimes my dad got transferred, sometimes my mom got transferred, and I kept on shifting schools. And in that period, I found it very difficult, very odd, and I wanted to have some sort of a base location, somewhere I could, sort of put in my roots. Over the last decade or so, I've put those roots in Jaipur. So it is not that it is difficult for me to leave India, it is difficult for me to leave Jaipur as well. For me, going from Jaipur to Dubai, or Jaipur to Singapore, or Jaipur to Bangalore is an equally difficult decision because I am well settled in Jaipur. That's one. Second is because I have parents who are close to 80 years of age. So I would want to spend as much time as possible that is left with them. The third is I have made, I would believe, enough amount of money to continue and not give a shit about, living in India. I can live on this money very easily. And Can I still do that if I essentially move abroad? I don't think so. Moving abroad without a career, without a job, theoretically you can just buy a long-term visa or a passport and still move abroad. But to continue living there, I don't have that amount of money where if I can lead a fire lifestyle in India, I don't think I'll be able to lead a fire lifestyle in Canada or a fire lifestyle in Dubai because the cost of living is significantly more there. Some people even argue that firing in Jaipur is significantly easier than firing in Bangalore because even the cost of living in Jaipur versus Bangalore is also significantly different. So that's another one of the reasons.
On the we spoke about you broadly laid out the reasons why somebody should move abroad, but one question is there is it specifically for people who have, let's say, studied computer science, biotechnology, or people in STEM fields? Do you think this advice mostly resonates with them? Not resonate, I mean, is it applicable more for them, or is this a blanket advice for even, let's say, somebody who has only graduated 12th and maybe they cannot afford to, okay, for them, if they cannot afford to, maybe then they have no choice but to continue living in India, make enough money and then go abroad. So I'm just trying to understand is this a blanket advice for any educated person, or is it applicable for anyone?
It's easier for folks in STEM.
Okay.
So, it's going to be much harder for, let's say, BCom graduate to move abroad. It's going to be...
Why so?
The amount of opportunities are going to be lesser. It's going to be very difficult for him to find a job abroad. So for him, probably doing an MBA is the option, do an MBA from abroad. But an MBA from abroad is often very expensive, and perhaps if he cannot afford that. So the point is, if you can, then it is a blanket advice. But I believe that, I don't know what the number would be, but let's say if 80% of folks who are working in computer science in India can move abroad, maybe 30% of BCom graduates in India can move abroad. However, anyone who can, they should. So this is sort of a blanket advice for anyone who gets an opportunity, they should. So, and to be really honest, I would argue that, and which we have seen in the demographics, people without any qualifications, if they get some sort of an opportunity, which is very rampant in Punjab, for example, they get an opportunity to move abroad, to become, to do, let's say, minimum wage jobs. If they can find such an opportunity, if there is some way that they can move abroad, it's extremely hard for them. But if they do find, then yes, it is applicable for them also. See, for them, what you need to compare is what are the opportunities a BCom graduate has in India? If he goes abroad, the sort of opportunities that he will have there, they are going to be better. So this is indeed a blanket advice for anyone who can. It's just easier for folks in STEM. It's even easier for com science graduates. It's even easier for com science graduates from top colleges. It's even easier for com science graduates from top colleges who are working at the top tech companies which are in India. So let's say if there is someone from Razorpay who is a senior engineer at Razorpay, if that guy decides to move abroad, it's going to be significantly easier for him to move abroad than, let's say, someone who is a BCom graduate and earning 25,000 rupees a month in a credit card sales job of sorts.